This is a Kirblog. This is a Kirblog. Welcome, everybody. I have lied to you horribly again, but I have a good reason this time, like truly good, not from a matter of not having time. I was going to do the why do I storytell Kirblog topic this weekend. I'm recording this on Thursday, and the reason that I'm delaying is because I was originally thinking I was going to be seeing Zootopia tonight on opening night, that is, or on this previous Thursday. It's going up on Saturday. Time travel, you get it, whatever. And I wanted to wait to see that first before recording the topic, but my friends that I wanted to go see it with thought it would be better to go on Friday, so I delayed it, and that'll be for next week, so I apologize. But I still have a good topic anyway, so I hope you'll forgive me and you know, be patient with me. This one comes from Rob Platt, who asked, "Hey Kirb, big fan of your Kirblogs. I originally found you through Newgrounds back in the day, but recently discovered your channel and have been making my way through the huge list of videos filled with great and inspiring advice. I remember one point you commented on a video I had contributed to about 3 years ago, a Sonic Colors Planet Wisp house remix, I think, and comments like those from people such as you and Daniel Floyd from Extra Credits really inspired me as a creator to pursue music as a career instead of just a hobby. I know you probably get loads of messages, but I was wondering if you haven't already, could do a video on the current state of collaboration culture or perhaps the impact positive advice from those more experienced than you has given you." So first of all, I do have a Kirblog topic that I did a while ago about working together, at least in animation, so that might help for for one kind of bit to that. I think it also goes into bits about just collaborating with people in general. I'll have some annotations to that. Second of all, I apologize because I looked through that video that you were talking about, and unfortunately I couldn't find the comment that I left at the time, and I'm assuming that you're telling the truth about that, so I apologize for not remembering exactly what I said, but either way, thank you for the inspiration for the topic, and hopefully this will be helpful as well. This is a great thing to talk about because this has been a great lesson that I've learned. I realize even just as I'm talking about this now, a lot of stuff as a kid. I had this thing as a kid, and still maybe in some cases now, but not nearly as much because I've hopefully grown to become a better listener in general. But as a kid, I always hated like whenever something would come off as like talking down to me in any sort of way. So often when people would repeat things to me about, like bits of advice they thought that would help me, it would my first reaction would typically be getting annoyed because I felt like I was being patronized or like treated like a child or whatever. There was one particular phrase, and it was said by many different people that were school staff and counselors and things like that. It was something like, you can't change how other people think, or you can't change what they do. You can only change how you react to it, which is interesting. It's kind of, I guess, a little bit of a less interesting version of a quote that I learned from Trevor Duvall about like happiness is a choice, and you can either choose to take something personally and be upset about it, or you can choose to let it roll off your back and be happy. Kind of along the same sort of idea, more or less. And that was something that I was told by a lot of people, back when I was really picked on and made fun of a lot by everybody that I went to school with. And and the cycle of why it was happening is because I would react poorly to when they would pick on me. I'd have outbursts and I'd get pissed off and I'd retaliate and do whatever, and I would get into trouble for it, and it would just stress me out and make me miserable, and etc. And every time I get told that, like, I was realizing I wasn't really getting it. I talked about this in my Surviving High School Kirblog from a little while ago, but in that I was talking about how my superiority complex that I chose to take was my way of dealing with how people were treating me at the time. But that bit of advice definitely helped out a lot later in how I was working with people that I cared about. I think because in some ways that advice was being applied to people that I had no like attachment to. I didn't care about the people that were making fun of me. But in cases later where it was affecting my friends and people that I cared about and like colleagues and people I looked up to, choosing how I would react was actually, I think, something that lent itself really well to my sense of like, I guess, like public relations, not in just like a business sense, but just like how I carry myself to other people on the internet, and how I interact with others for the first time, and just like, just trying to be like more well-mannered with people in general, which has been a major help. But the point with that is it took a very long time for that particular thing that I remembered, and it lasted with me, that bit of advice that was given to me by several people. It took a very long time for it to sink in and affect me in the way that it did. And interestingly, this kind of ties in with the responding to criticism topic that I did a little while ago too. in that I think that when we get advice that is in the form of criticism, even though it's often, like I said in that topic, it's coming from a place of wanting to help. I think that the reason why well, not just myself, but why anybody might take criticism the wrong way, no matter how good of a place it's coming from, it's because it's in the form of like, you fucked up, like you did something wrong, and like I'm telling you how to fix it because you don't know how to yourself, or you might be lost as to. And so like that reads as condescending, or like, or as like you feel self-deprecating because like, oh no, I made a mistake kind of thing. Which I think is the reason why, as you get older and you have more perspective on just kind of how life is and how people are and, et cetera, I think that unless it's really like you actually did make a mistake on something and they're, teaching you something, which is just as well. And that's still understandable as to like how it, sometimes it can be hard to take that or hard to respond to that or, make use of it. Because like as human beings, we tend to be very set in our ways. We tend to often think like, based on our own experiences that we know best and we know what's right for us and we have our own, senses of good and bad and right and wrong. But interestingly, and this is especially true for artists, or just like humble people in general, like sometimes it can even be difficult to take compliments. Like, I know so many like incredibly, well, not just even talented people, but also just really good people. Like whenever like I compliment them or they get complimented sort of thing. They're just like, oh, I'm okay. I mean, oh, you're very kind. I mean, but not really, kind of thing. Which is funny because I mean that usually is an endearing quality in terms of like, oh, they're not, they don't see themselves that way. Kind of a funny segue on that note. I was catching up with a friend of mine this week, and we've been talking again for a while. We'd like been out of touch for like a very long time actually. And they work in a hospital, and they mentioned like, they're a very confident person, but they're also they tend to be like they tend to be very like, kind of what I was saying before, like overly humble, and like they don't always take not take compliments well, but like they're very just like, oh, kind of thing. But they were telling me about how they used to say sorry a lot. Much like our friend Masako of Team 4-Star, who is, infamously known for doing that all the time, and which is kind of the inspiration for why Astarob is like that in tone. Actually, like, oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry for saying sorry. Stop saying sorry so much. Oh, sorry about that. I mean, yeah, kind of thing. And this friend of mine was talking about how they literally were like sitting at a desk or something, and somebody came over to like stand next to them for something, and her first instinct was saying, oh, sorry. And the person was like, why are you saying sorry? What are you sorry for? And they were just like, I don't know. And it's like, well, don't use the word sorry like that, like for no reason. I mean, that's a misuse of the word. You know English for a reason, right? And that's such a great way to describe that, because it's so true. It's like if you're using the word sorry, in a way that doesn't necessarily befit what the situation is, you're just throwing it around because it's the first instinct that you have to respond to something. It's like that the way that was phrased in this particular interaction between my friend and this guy, it was so perfect to be like, oh, you know what? That's a great point. Yeah, I probably shouldn't throw that around so willy-nilly unless it actually like really means something, like I really am apologizing for something. And honestly, sometimes even for me, I feel like that's useful advice because, especially when I'm in a situation of like, oh, sorry, I feel like I fucked up or whatever. I often think I default to that type of shit all the time, and it's silly, and and there's other examples like that too. But that's what I mean is in that particular instance, like what this guy had to say was so impactful and so memorable and so perfect to like what the situation was, that it left a lasting impact on my friend, and it completely changed their perception of how they were going about the rest of their way of being and the rest of their use of of extremely common word in not even English, for fuck's sake, in human interaction. And stuff like that. And this was a person that she didn't know very well, and sometimes that's the funny thing too, is like you'd think that sometimes it comes from people that are very personally meaningful to you, or people who that and trust really well, which is the case. Sometimes it can come from completely unexpected sources, like a situation like that, where it's completely just like, oh, okay, yeah, this person said something like super out of nowhere, and it was actually really, really useful to me, and I just never forgot it. I know I've probably had an example like that before. Unfortunately, I'm such an idiot, and I can't remember exactly like who or what the situation was. Thankfully, I do have some better examples in terms of people that I do know personally. Two in particular, Mark Swint and Joshua Tomar are a couple of guys who, have really said a lot of inspiring shit to me over the years that I've known them. I've known both of them since about 2006 or 7 or so quite a while now, like almost a decade now, which is crazy to me how much fucking time has passed. I always have to pinch myself on that. They had stuff like Mark, for instance, has known a lot about my original IP, currently known as Balancing Act, for a very long time, and he's watched it changed and evolved in the last 10 years alone, and it's changed even more since the days before that. And he's a very critical thinker. He's a very opinionated kind of guy. And I've combated him on a lot of things. Like we have, a lot of friendly back and forth arguments about like usually pretty like whatever kind of shit, like about video games or whatever, and we've had him on the show a few times before, and we have some great topics. But we've also talked a lot about in-depth stuff regarding storytelling and creating stuff, because he's always been somebody who I've trusted the opinion of. He's a creative guy as well, and he's always seemed like very well educated and very well researched, and like what he feels like works and doesn't work in different ways. And he has good taste on stuff. I trust his opinions on things. But like, for instance, he was very like in a lot of the early stages of where my idea was, even before I did my thesis film, like years before that even, and it's changed a lot since then too. He was very critical of a lot of like the kind of battle anime tropes that I had, that came from just my influences at the time. And he had a lot of like suggestions that I remember at the time me thinking, like, I won't say what they were because I don't want to spoil things that may or may not be the case now. But I'll say that he had a suggestion for things that at first I was like, oh, I don't know, that doesn't feel right to me. And then like as my tastes changed and grew, and kind of my idea behind like why I was making stuff and like what I wanted to do that was more interesting, I remembered a lot of what he said from way back, and I was like, actually that actually wasn't a bad idea. Maybe I should think about that more. And then a lot of those things that have been suggested have helped me change, I think for the better, a lot of the ideas that I've come up with, for that IP in particular. And then in the case of Tomar, Tomar was somebody who always still seemed to have like a firm level of belief in me, like as a creative, back when in my kind of dark period on Newgrounds of just, I was being ridiculed by people and kind of, it was considered kind of a joke and everything. And like, I was trying hard and trying to figure myself out, and et cetera. And this was kind of like right on the cusp of when I was having my little wake-up call, which actually, to go back even further, Ryan Miller, Artil, who is another artist, we had a horrible impression of each other for a long time. Like we did not like each other because of a lot of moral conflicts on creativity, during that time. And when I first met him at Comic-Con, in like 2008 or 9 or whatever it was, I was showing him my original stuff and said, this is the stuff that I really want to do. And he was like, well, dude, listen, and I think I've told this story before too, but it still bears repeating. And this is a guy, again, I didn't like this guy. I had a bad impression of this guy for a very long time. But he said, listen, dude, if you want to do original stuff, then that's great. And I all the power to you. But like, you got to understand, you have an impression right now you've left on people about doing all unoriginal stuff, and that's what you depend on, and that's what your viewers know you for. So if you want to start doing original stuff like you've always wanted to, just know it's going to be an uphill battle. And he was absolutely right. And I went into doing Tome knowing that, 100% knowing that. But not only that, I think that that's also part of what pushed me into, this isn't what I want. And it was strange. Like the fact that this came from somebody who at first I didn't like at all. And like I had personally told to their face that like, I think you're a jerk and like, I don't agree with your opinions, and et cetera. And then we kind of wound up having like a bit of an understanding for each other. And now I actually have respect for Ryan as an artist. I think he's always been very talented, but like I get where he's coming from, like as a person. And not everybody is a fan of the guy for different reasons, which, that's a whole other subject I won't get into. But what he said that summer, like when I was at this convention, like I remembered it. And like from all places, the fact that left an impact on me, like it was, I think, kind of what spurred me into my wanting to get out of this thing I was in. But on that same note, Tomar, who was, again, a guy that always believed in me and always was saying like positive stuff to me, in encouragement, he said something about how like, what, Kirb, I really respect the fact that you always finish what you start. Like you always like stick to your guns and everything. And that was actually, I think that single quote is the reason why I finished the Parody Rangers movie. And at the time that I was doing it, I was beginning to work on my thesis film for college, and I had infinitely more important things to be doing than still focusing on my parody stuff on Newgrounds at the time. But despite all that, I still had attachment to these characters, and I didn't want to just, especially because I didn't finish properly TV Tome Adventures, which a lot of my earlier fans were not so happy about. I wanted to give a proper ending to Parody Rangers, and I thought, you know what, all I have to do is finish up this last part. It'll probably not be as pretty looking as the other ones, or won't be my greatest work ever, but you know what, I want to give this the proper send-off that it deserves because of what Tomar said. And it wasn't just, I don't think it was some kind of maneuver in the fact that he was the voice of Evan Splooge, because by that point, he was doing lots of really cool stuff, and I think that was just like another character of his. But he did really enjoy it too, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Either way, the point is, Tomar is pretty much the reason that I continued on with it and that I was able to give it the ending that it deserves. So Parody Rangers fans, you have him to thank for that completely. And that was another thing too, like that quote in and of itself, like it lasted a long time, and it's made me very strategic in what it is that I set out to do, like to set like realistic goals for myself, because I don't like leaving things unfinished. I don't like ruining people's expectations. I like to have a plan so that what I do will be satisfying in the end. And on that same note, he even also said to when I was looking at moving out to California, because he moved out here years before I did with his wife Jaxie, he just said, like, have a plan. Make sure you have some sort of a plan. And I did, and I'm still here after over a year and a half. I've survived, and it's been insane and awesome at the same time. And the last kind of example I've got is, one that Tome fans are familiar with, which was, when I had been sitting on the idea of doing something with Tome a little while after I'd finished up college, and Liz was the one who simply said, like, do it, why not, kind of thing. Like sometimes, and she is one of many people like that who have given me just a simple encouragement of like, yeah, go for it, why the hell not, sort of thing. And it's because of that I went ahead and made the fucking show. 4 years later, we have 16 episodes, and it's the thing that I'm the most proud of thus far, and it's the biggest thing to my name, I would say, like in as myself as a creator, I would say, and that was just a simple, like, go for it. She wasn't even like really part of the staff yet until like a couple episodes in, when she was helping out with the script supervising stuff. But at that time, it was just like right place at the right time of like, yeah, go for it, and it worked, and it was perfect, and so you have her to thank really for the show, getting off the ground in the first place too. So what am I saying in all this? Rob, I would say that, be open and be open to expect the unexpected, as the Card Captor's dub opening would say. I know that's stupid, but no, for real. Inspirational advice like that can come from really anybody, from lots of crazy different places you never would have thought of, and not just from people like myself or the Extra Credits guys who are folks that you look up to, which is great, and I always appreciate that, and and that's why I also try to take responsibility and of being like as good of a role model as I can to anybody who gives a shit about anything I have to say. So I very much appreciate that. But you never know where you're going to hear something like that'll really stick with you and that'll change you for the better, or that you'll learn something from, or that'll give you that a little extra kick in the ass to do something that you didn't think of before. So yeah, expecting the unexpected and being open to, like, it might not come from your idol, it might not come from your closest friend, it might not come from your family. It might come from some random ass person on the street that might have something really intelligent to say about whatever that, could really leave a big impact on you. And then, and hopefully it'll be a good one, because unfortunately sometimes there are the bad times and there are the bad things that people say, and that's not always great. But sometimes, those things can make us stronger too. And I've had situations like that. That might be a whole nother topic in and of itself. But actually I think that already was. It was dealing with discouragement, which I'll have another annotation to. There's a lot of related topics I've done before. So, if you want to take a look at those, I'll have links to them around in here. But that's going to wrap us up in the meantime. So I'm going to head off, but thanks for listening. And I promise, I swear to God, I will have the why do I story tell in the first place, like creative process, Kirblog topic next week after I see Zootopia. There we go. I wanted to have that inspirational experience with that movie first and then do it. But in the meantime, please leave a comment and tell me your stories about this particular kind of topic, where, like, what are some examples of people who have given you good advice from all sorts of different sources. Give me multiple sources if you want. I want to hear your stories about this. What did they say, and why and how did it affect you, and how has it changed you and made you hopefully into a better person or a better whatever it is that you do with your life, kind of thing. Leave a comment about that. If you have ideas for future Kirblog topics, leave comments about that too, or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you feel like. That'll do it. Thanks for listening. Holy crap, I'm going to faint because I can't breathe and I've been talking for 20 minutes straight. Holy crap. Okay, bye.